Welcome to the Short-Term Rental Playmaker Podcast, where we break down what it really takes to win in short-term rentals in today's market. From insider tips and emerging trends to real conversations with top playmakers in the space, this show gives you the tools, strategies, and mindset to build and scale a successful short-term rental business. Now, here's your host, Joe Rohne.
Today's episode is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents, the short-term rental real estate experts helping investors find profitable vacation rental properties nationwide. If you're serious about scaling your STR portfolio, Savvy STR Agents should be your first call.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Short-Term Rental Playmaker Podcast. This is Hospitable Hosts Week, and Libby Ross with co-host Oklahoma is my first Hospitable Hosts Couples Edition guest of the week. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. What a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, super excited. Obviously, we have a big week coming up. Our book that we are co-authored in releases this Saturday, February 14th. So, kind of tell me a little bit about, going through this process of writing your chapter and doing it with Cody and what it all looks like.
Well, doing it with Cody's a whole separate story. We need 3 or 4 podcasts and a therapist. No, kidding. It was a great opportunity. It really helped us dive in and reflect. And I really loved that opportunity to reflect on where we started, where we've been, and where we're going. So I think that was a really neat part to have to really just look at the past but also at the same time look at the future. So I found that to be a really interesting and had a gritty way to get through the book. I found we had a lot to say, but then we also found ourselves tongue-tied many times as well with what we thought people would want to read and what they would want to know and what did we want to know in the beginning.
Yeah, I think we kind of felt the same way as we were going through the book, and it kind of opens your eyes on the journey, and every single one of us in this story all have different stories. We all have different journeys, and we've all come from different backgrounds, and each one of us went a totally separate way of how to get to where we are in this space. So let's kind of deep dive. We're not going to give away all the secrets of the book, but how did you guys get started in STRs, and how long have you been doing this?
Well, a lot of the chapter that we talk about and the way we got started is peer pressure. Uh,
Nice.
for me, it was spousal pressure. Cody wanted to be in the space. He basically wore me down until I agreed to it. And that's kind of how we ended up here. And it was through listening to podcasts that ignited a fire in him in wanting to invest, and especially in the short-term space.
Wow, that's awesome. So when did you guys actually get started? How long ago?
We bought our first home. We closed December of 2019. So we were in the COVID rush.
Oh yeah.
We didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't know we were going to be, spoiled by the COVID rush. Because after investing after that, of course, furniture went up. Sofas, you couldn't even get a sofa the next time we bought a house. It was back ordered for months. So that first one definitely gave us a little bit of a tease of what the market isn't.
Yes.
And made us kind of want to do more. But 4 years ago, we bought our first investment property. We currently own 4 doors, but altogether we manage 47. So we own about 10% of what we.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. So you're all in Oklahoma? Is that the only market that you're in, or have you expanded in other areas?
I am all in Oklahoma right now. I am looking at doing some virtual co-hosting for clients who are current clients right now, not necessarily looking for those clients, but people that I have a good working relationship with here in Oklahoma, but have an investment property somewhere else. Definitely going to look into helping them get going in the market and turning some vacation homes into vacation rentals.
I love how you did it in your own space, though, right? I mean, there's so many people, they talk about I'm in these many markets and all over the place, and I'm only in one market too. I was in two. I started in Branson, but now I am just in Panama City Beach. And I just find it so much easier to handle operations, and you have the same team. And yeah, I mean, obviously your team's more than a couple people, but I'm sure you've kind of found that the same way. It's a lot easier to scale in one spot than to try to be all over.
Well, my husband and I were in home remodeling for a long time, so we happen to know a lot of subcontractors. That is our network. Those are our friends. There's not a man that comes to my house that has a clean pair of boots on most of the time. They're out there in the nitty-gritty getting dirty. And so, yeah, we didn't have to go look for the handyman. I think you hear so many podcasts or read so many books. What are the two things you have to do when you get a short-term rental? You have to find the cleaner and you have to find the handyman. And that team is so important. But here it was just calling in a favor.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So scaling from, I mean, we're talking 6 years now, all in. When was your first co-host property? What year did you get your first co-host property?
It would have been 2020 as well, and it was just doing a favor for somebody that I sat across from lunch from. She had a rental house that was long term, happened to be just a few blocks away from a house that I had purchased, and so getting to talking about that, and so it was kind of accidental that it fell into my lap there, and then now we onboard about one every other week.
Wow, wow. So, I mean, 47 properties in 5ish years. I mean, that's quite impressive. I'm going on 3 years, and I'm only at 10. Although I have a very specific niche. I only take on properties that'll do 150K or more, and we require them for us to remodel and redesign them to make them, as Bill Faith would say, super properties. So we kind of have a little bit different model, but what is obviously the revenue is going to be different in Oklahoma than it is in where I'm at in a beach market. You have, I'm guessing you have low, medium, and high performing rentals, or do you have specific ones that you kind of target?
I like a larger home. That is probably my niche. I'm really good with a 4 plus bedroom home. But in Oklahoma, I like to say that we're not always a vacation market. We're not People might not necessarily be getting grandma and mom in the car and driving down the highway to come here, but we're getting there. And right now
Mhm.
we're building the infrastructure to get there. So we are a short-term rental market for work crews, for people traveling as this market gets built. Oklahoma City is going to have 2 sports in the 2028 Olympics, and so there's a lot of moving and grooving going on here. Our airport's taking over a makeover, um, downtown infrastructure. There's a lot going on in the city, and that's another reason I find it so important to manage where you are, because I happen to know this stuff because I can turn on the local news and listen to it, and I'm immersed in it versus a lot of investors that are over here in Oklahoma City area have no idea that the 2028 Olympics is coming. So if you're not on top of it and you're not managing it appropriately, you're gonna miss out on some really big dollars. Those 6 weeks or so that we'll be having things go on here.
Yeah, that'll definitely be an exciting time, and also challenging to get the calendar right and get your pricing right, because that's going to be a once in a lifetime type event for your space. So, what do you do to try to plan for that? And, do you have a network of other hosts in your area that you've talked to maybe start pre-planning that? Because if you guys can all get on the same page, it might be more beneficial for everyone.
Absolutely. I think the biggest and the scariest part for me right now is when to open the calendar. When do we start taking those bookings? The Olympics hasn't even started selling tickets yet. There's just now a lottery for those tickets, and it's locals that went into that lottery. So there's this little bit of learning curve. But I happen to have a really big network of hosts because I'm what some Airbnb has a community leader in certain areas. There are in a lot of areas, but a lot of
Yeah.
places are cities or towns. I happen to be one of 2 community leaders over the entire state of Oklahoma, so while while I have this network, I'm the one they're leaning into for advice and for direction, and I probably don't have a lot of advice and direction coming my way, but I'm lucky enough to be able to have conversations with Airbnb and talk to policy teams there and big events teams there to understand what's happening. What happened in Paris for the Olympics, what's happening with all the soccer games that are to come. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of learning from hosts not in Oklahoma that I will be leaning on those big ticket events. And then of course, like the authors of the book, I'll probably be making a few phone calls there and say, who's lived through something like this? Please, please offer me advice. Uh, spam me with the advice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's such a different world, coming, you're in like I guess kind of an urban suburban type short-term rental market, compared to the traditional vacation rental market. So I'm assuming your traffic is a little bit more year round. You may not have a high peak season. It does it really pick up in the summer months, or do you stay pretty consistent year round in a market like yours?
It does really pick up in the summer months in Oklahoma City. I've got a lake market that I'm in, Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma. It's one of the biggest lakes uh, in the United States. But that one, of course, does a lot during the summer, longer bookings. I stay really booked there because I'm very close to the interstate, so I'm pulling in weary travelers for the night a lot and doing a lot of last minute bookings there because luckily for me, there's not a hotel. There's just a couple of small motels there. So I play on that side there. In Norman, Oklahoma, we have the University of Oklahoma. So we're playing heavily on SEO, football, and game weekend and stuff like that. So there in Norman is very seasonal based on football. So,
Yeah.
it's all about football.
You got the college softball World Series every year too, because I was a softball coach for my daughter's select softball teams, and both of them got a chance to come down for the College World Series and do the tournament there for the week. And so that I know that's a huge event because that
What
brings in
year what year
yeah,
did you
thousands of
come
teams.
did you come too, and what year was that?
Let's see, it would have been 22 was the last year that I was there, and then 2019 would have been the other year.
Okay, I'm just wondering if we ever crossed paths there. My daughter also played travel ball, over the years, and what's really neat for us is the, coach at the college here is gonna be the coach for the Olympics.
Oh
So,
wow.
really neat full circle. That does bring a large booking for every house in Oklahoma City plus Norman because you have the softball teams. They might not necessarily be traveling for the College World Series, but you have the softball girls coming in with their parents as a team, and they're really looking for those big houses. It's not a huge fluctuation on the nightly rate there, but it's nice to have that 10-day booking.
Yeah, yeah, because it's a long stretch. We've been to Oklahoma, like I said, a couple of times for that, and it's a great event. And they do a good job, and there's multiple different softball organizations. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on down there. It's definitely a different world than that suburban side. So I guess want to kind of shift and talk about what your team looks like on something like that, how you handle things like trash, because like in my market, we're a vacation rental market. The trash company comes up, they walk up to the house, grab the trash, take it down, put it away, and that's just all covered by the trash company. So I'm sure you have some different procedures that you have to do up there.
Well, my team looks like rock stars. That's what they look like. Just picture Kiss standing up there on the stage and that's my team. No. I have a really solid team. I have someone who runs operations for me, someone who runs guest messaging, social media, of course, a variety of cleaners, and then a supply slash maintenance person because I do provide supplies for most of the homes that I manage. Trash has always been a nightmare. Uh, it was okay at 5 houses, 6 houses. It was even okay at 14 houses. And somewhere around the 35 mark, it got worse and it got worse. And unfortunately, we didn't have any companies here that were offering the short-term rental concierge trash service. And one of the girls that works for me, and I actually partnered up and we created a new business. It just launched on Friday last week. So just about 4 days ago, we were at the Home and Garden Show, and we're called Trash Wrangler. And I'll be a silent partner there for the most part, but out of necessity came creativity, and we're really excited to be launching that business and being able to offer a solution to short-term rental hosts as well as busy homeowners.
That's awesome. I thought I saw that on your Facebook page that that you had started that business. I wasn't sure how involved you were, but that's awesome because I mean that's a huge service because obviously you're taking care of it for your own properties, but you're not the only hosts in the area. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people calling on you.
I sure hope so. We're ready for it. So it's really, just similar to the other companies. They get text message verifications with a photo, and it's a big thing here. I think trash service is something that protects our industry as a whole, because that's if you go to the action committees or the complaint lines, a lot of times on short-term rentals, minus foul parties or parking, trash is something that we see a big complaint about here.
Yeah. Yeah. So you brought up parties. I'm in a beach market where everybody goes down there to vacation and party, so it's not a big deal. But in a suburban, urban type area, has this been a big concern? Have you had many issues with that in your market, or have you been pretty quiet?
I feel like I'm pretty blessed. I think I've learned to read between the lines. Um, I've had one teenage party that I am aware of, and it was a neighbor made me aware, and I went and shut it down immediately. It happened for, a few hours that went on until we shut that down. But I think that I'm really good at reading between the lines. I lean heavily on past reviews, so all hosts, please leave honest reviews. It helps us all.
Yes.
And I think that we've just done a really good job. When I did my numbers and looking at everything, I had 2% of my guests last year were what I would call bad guests. So I think that's a pretty small amount. And for that amount, that literally equated to 2.8 guests for me were not great guests last year. And but most of the time I think that people are pretty respectful of people's homes, and if they're loud for us, it's probably after game day, it's after a strong win, and people are just
Yeah.
celebrating. And I think I do a good job at reminding people when they're in a home, they may be on vacation, but my neighbors are not, and I just ask them just to respect that, and I say that right away, and I even have cute signs in my homes too, not to be rude, not to be the one
Yeah.
that's on 'em, but just a soft reminder that, the people to the left and to the right and front and behind you might actually be doing a 9 to 5 today and raising their children. So
Yeah. Yeah. Now, and it's, even though I'm in a vacation rental market, I still have the same thing because all my houses are in communities that are a mixture of vacation rentals and permanent residents. And we still have the same stuff. And I'd probably say my percentage of bad guests is probably in the same range, somewhere around that 2.5 to 3%. And, it happens. And I think it's pretty consistent. And I agree. If you vet your guests and you have conversations with them, and you don't just hit accept, and I mean obviously set it and forget it kind of thing. I think it's important, like even for me, we take college kids during spring break because Panama City Beach is a big spring break community, and they pay great money. I get 6, 7, $8,000 weeks from college students, and we just have a conversation, and I'd actually put them up against being more respectful than a lot of my families, because we have that conversation and set those expectations up front.
I would agree with that statement 100%, that I could definitely take in some young adults versus a mom with a whole bunch of kids who wants to be on vacation and doesn't want to parent her kids in my house for a week and they just do whatever they want.
Yes. Yes, it's, everybody says, "Oh, don't accept the college kids." I'll take them all day long because I mean, I've even had one that called me up. He's like, "Mr. Joe, I'm so sorry. We accidentally bumped a light and the glass thing broke. I'm going to Home Depot to buy a new globe. Is that okay?" And I'm like no mom would have done that. So,
Right. No. They would have said it's in the cleaning sheet or something.
exactly. Exactly. So obviously going into 2026, you say you're picking up like one house every other week. What are your goals? Like, what are your long-term goals for your co-hosting business continuing to grow and scale, and where do you kind of see that bar getting to?
Yeah, so that's going to be changing. Probably more quality over quantity going forward. I do like an economical stay because I can get midterm bookings on the economical stays here with the work crews, and I have some work crews that call me weekly. They want to know
Mhm.
where to go. They're only coming to me, and I'm telling them which link to use, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Through through multiple ways of communication. But going forward, I'm really looking to kind of scale more with investors versus regular homeowners. And that way they're not so much using it as a vacation home. When you have an investor, there some of them have never even seen the property. They've
Yeah.
bought the property sight unseen. They had me in their back pocket. On closing day, I'm the one collecting the keys and going in and furnishing the home and getting it ready. They know as much as I show them and tell them, and they're very passive about it, and they're very easy to get along with. Not that a regular homeowner's not, but they may wanna come in on the big weekends, and you lose a little bit of funds there, the way that I have things set up. So I'm looking for more of those investors with 2 to 4 properties going forward, just so that I have a little bit more creative control, and less not input, because I like the input. I think that keeps us from being complacent when we do have homeowners coming in, and it gives us strong feedback that we wouldn't get from those investors because they're not staying on their properties. But just going forward, I'm hoping to kinda when we sign a contract, that's 3 or 4 addresses to start with.
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome, and I'm assuming the returns are pretty good in your market. What's kind of entry level price point, and what kind of returns are you seeing?
Are we talking about nightly rates here, or are we talking okay.
Yeah, like if I buy a house for $300,000, what kind of revenue that I am I kind of looking at to potentially get to? It can it do 60? Can it do 80? What are some of those high level type investments? What it looks like in your market?
Yeah, I would say on average, we're looking at 75,000 a year on some of them. We have some that are producing well over that, but then we have some that are actually only in the 30 to $50,000 range, but their occupancy levels are phenomenal. It's just that's all that they do at an a two-bedroom economy stay kinda thing. So, but on average, that's 75. So, and it's
Okay.
normally I mean, a $300,000 house here is a really nice house though, just so versus Florida, or California, like, the market here, I think a really good average house you can still find at 220 to 250. And then when you're looking at 400, 500,000, you're talking about a lakefront property a lot of times in Oklahoma. So we still have a really good cost of living going on here, and the price point is really good. So we see a lot of out of state investors coming in. You can sell one property in the San Francisco market and come buy 10 here and have more revenue. I mean, of course, a few more headaches with more doors, a lot more Wi-Fi to have serviced and things like that. But I think that, the comparison is pretty strong.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's we, I'm a part of the Savvy STR agent team, and we're in a few markets. I actually still live in St. Louis, even though my properties are in PCB. But we have a St. Louis Savvy agent, we have an Indianapolis Savvy agent, and I'm sure at some point we're going to have an Oklahoma City Savvy agent. So, because we are expanding across the nation, so I'm sure that'll be coming. So, if you know of any agents looking to join the Savvy team, you definitely send them our way, because I'm sure that's a market that we're looking to expand this year.
I would love to put some connections together for you.
Yeah. So, because it does, it sounds like it's a great place to invest. I get most people that call me, we're a minimum 500K. I mean, we can get some condos in the 3 to 400, but with HOA dues, you're not going to get near the ROI that you would get in a place like Oklahoma City or St. Louis. And so those clients or those investors that are calling us, we're passing off to those agents that are in those more suburban type markets for those people that want to get into the space. Because it's a little bit tougher to get into the, Florida. My average sale in Florida is about $750,000, $800,000. Obviously we're not going to get those types of properties in Oklahoma City. So
Well, no, and with that kind of money, you'd be getting so property.
yeah,
So,
that may or may not cash flow because you got to hit some pretty darn good revenue to be able to do it. And it might cash flow it. I haven't really expanded or looked into your market. I do know I'm coming down to Oklahoma in April for Bill Faith's mastermind event. We're going to a ranch on the southeastern corner of Oklahoma. So I won't be close to Oklahoma City, but we're spending a week down there at a ranch on like 2,000 acres. So, cause I'm part of Bill's mastermind. So
very cool. That's probably down in the Broken Bow market. I would
but yeah, pretty close. It's actually further south than that. It's actually really close to the Texas border. And cause it's a couple thousand acre ranch that one of the mastermind members owns. So
very cool.
yeah. So super exciting. So obviously this week we have a huge, or I'm sorry. Yeah, it'll be this week because this is going to air the Monday before our book comes out. So what does that look like for you as far as marketing the book? It's like one of the things I'm doing, we're actually going to order and put them in every one of our properties. So our guests could potentially pick it up and read a little bit about us. Have you thought about that kind of stuff? What you're going to do with this book?
I absolutely plan to have them in my homes, have them on my person when meeting new potential clients. I I was not on our Zoom call last week because we were at the Home and Garden show for Trash Wrangler, and we'd like just opened the door when the Zoom call happened, but I caught up on it last night, and I am super excited to tell my city officials about it just because we have so much action going on right now, and we're talking about becoming a tourist state. I'm actually a travel ambassador for Oklahoma City, and I'm so excited to be able to go and tell those groups about what we have going on in the book, just because I think it's going to be a neat way to embrace something that maybe Oklahoma's not always a part of because we aren't quote unquote a vacation market. And I think that a lot of those people would argue that we are a vacation market, and we do have a lot of neat stuff going on with our zoo and things like that. So we have those opportunities, and we are the horse capital of the world. So we have a lot of horse people coming in, some horse sales that you could go buy 5 properties in Oklahoma for the price that they're paying for 1 horse. And
Yes.
I think that when I make that statement, I might kind of upset the officials sometimes because they do see us as a vacation market on those levels. It's just from what I'm seeing on a short-term space and while I'm hosting, happen to be more of the work crews and the traveling professionals. So, but yeah, I think just being able to pass the book out, share the book, talk about it on social media. I think my husband and we have a story that's a little bit different. The money side of things really scared us and made us paranoid. We thought to be in this space, we had to be very financial well, and we weren't when we started. And so I hope that our story alone is able to intrigue some people who are still paycheck to paycheck trying to figure out how to make that next move. What does that look like? And knowing that there is a support group out there. If you find the right lender and the right agent, they are going to make it happen for you. And just that's what I'm hoping. I hope that that story intrigues people and then they're able to read stories about you and the other people in there that are talking about $1 million properties and just see this stepping stone that can happen and this full circle opportunity that will be out there. So I think marketing the book is just going to come very natural for me because I'm going to be very excited to talk about it and to hopefully ignite a fire in another couple and to see them start living their passive dreams.
Yep. I mean, that's probably my absolute favorite part of being a realtor in this space is helping first-time investors. And I sold 38 houses last year, and 25 of those were first-time investors, and it was their first vacation rental. And, teaching them and training them and showing the ropes. And I have training videos and things that I do because I truly want them to be successful because this has been a life-changing business for my family. Sounds like it's been a life-changing business for you. And there's just so much opportunity out there. And, you can get into a second home loan in Oklahoma City for under $25,000 in your bank. And there's not many places that you could buy a short-term rental and get started in this game for under 100,000, much less under 50. So sounds like it's definitely a good place to potentially invest.
Yeah, and you can probably attest to this, but knowing the right agent who can also, keep the furniture in the home and doing these little tricks that just really bring down that first capital investment. If you can get $40,000 worth of furniture for $6,000 because your agent is really looking out for your future and understanding what you have going on. I think that's a big game changer too, is that initial getting the property's tough, but getting
Yeah.
everything to go in it, or if you don't have a mindset to do that, now you've got that level of stress. But if you're taking over something that was already existing, and the couch and the cute pictures come along with it, and they still have a great mattress, I mean, that's a golden position to be in right there.
Any like super design properties? Yeah, I'm sure you've seen like Ashita Designs or some of these other really top designers. Is there any big time designers in your space, or can you still just, not saying be average, but go in and not have to spend $100,000 on design and be successful?
Yeah, we're definitely not Orlando, that we have to have, the over the top Mickey type settings. I unfortunately have not had much luck with design, going over the top, but nobody's really doing it here. I think it's a great opportunity for someone to open up in the design space. I've hired people to do murals twice now, and I ended up going back with a solid cover wall after just not getting it just didn't turn out like I envisioned, like I wanted, to have like that Instagrammable wall.
Yeah.
Here, I think people are just mainly looking for comfort. They're looking for parking, that kind of stuff. That's what's really important for a lot of our visitors. I probably get a question at least 5 times a week, if there's enough room to park a truck and trailer. So that's an amenity here, is a good driveway, long driveway versus, some over the top, decor.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to be in this book with you. I am looking forward to hopefully getting to meet you in person at some point at one of these events. I have a goal to have everybody in our community sign my book, so I can get everybody's autograph in there. That's one of the things that I want to do in this. So I know there's going to be at least one event planned, and it sounds like it might be in Branson, which is, halfway between us. So hopefully that comes to fruition this I think what Megan and they were talking about May maybe, but they haven't finalized any details yet. So hopefully we get a chance to meet in person there and get to connect a little bit more. But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit about your story. For everyone out there, make sure on Saturday morning you get on Amazon and order the Hospitable Hosts Couples Edition book. It is got some really, really amazing stories. Any parting words from Oklahoma?
No, I mean, just yeah, it's Valentine's is for couples, so come out and support us, and it's just been an honor to co-author with you, to do this podcast with you, and to soon be in spaces with you, Joe.
Yep. Sounds great. I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us this week on the Short-Term Rental Playmaker Podcast. We'll see you tomorrow when I have another guest from this book.
Welcome to the Short-Term Rental Playmaker Podcast, where we break down what it really takes to win in short-term rentals in today's market. From insider tips and emerging trends to real conversations with top playmakers in the space, this show gives you the tools, strategies, and mindset to build and scale a successful short-term rental business. Now, here's your host, Joe Rohne.
Today's episode is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents, the short-term rental real estate experts helping investors find profitable vacation rental properties nationwide. If you're serious about scaling your STR portfolio, Savvy STR Agents should be your first call.